About artistic visuals.
It's okay.
Don't worry about that. Hi, it's Staff Sergeant Moe with Duane Ehmer, and this is take 2. We're going to get the facts out. We're in a vehicle now. The interview is done. It was a independent media. They're working on a documentary. Thank you. My words evade me. Documentary. It won't come out until about July, give or take. We don't know the title or anything. Do you? She didn't give it to me.
No, she didn't
but
give it to me.
That's what that interview was all about. It's not reporters or on the news or anything like that. So there'll be more to that documentary. Not the feds guys. We've seen these people before, actually. It'll be alternative, actually. Kind of, they call themselves kind of the fringe element. So that's all that was. Now, more importantly, back to, we already put out the word. Hi. Luana's right there. She's saying hi. We already put out the word. This is Cindy, by the way.
Hi, guys.
She's shy. And it's a year and 1 day. He will voluntarily turn himself in. And that's kind of where we left off. But we promised you some more information because, of course, as usual, in court, there were truths and untruths and inconsistencies. The judge even inconsistent in saying you didn't ever take responsibility, yet as you stood right there and said, I dug the hole, taking full responsibility. I think she's really upset with the fact that you weren't kissing her ass particularly and apologizing to the court and to the Paiute tribe, apparently, that they're calling a victim, even though they're a victim, all right, in this nation, for sure. Yep. The Native Americans, we all agree on that they've been victimized, terrorized under tyranny from the federal government, land taken from them. Now the federal government has them so dependent on their teats that they're like bootlickers at this point, that they're willing to compromise their morality and ethics, claiming the heritage of their ancestry while committing immoral acts in court to take the stand, cry victim, when in fact there was no burial site there, no evidence of a burial site there, and an archaeological investigation had taken place.
We go back to the beginning.
Let's do that.
My first scoop of dirt, I uncovered a CenturyLink cable. So obviously whoever put that cable in the ground decided that nobody cared enough on this site to put the cable in the ground and build a road on top of it. And now all of a sudden it is a archaeological site. This is bullshit. And this is all bullshit.
If it's an archaeological site, then what was it doing on an easement at a parking lot?
Yeah, it was on an easement beside a parking lot. But
the judge didn't touch on those facts.
No, the judge strictly avoided the honesty and truth. She says you are not allowed to have self-defense on deprivation. But the prosecution stood there and said they were just defending themselves, and he dug a hole.
Oh, and I did notice something very different in this sentencing hearing, something prosecution wouldn't do before, which was touch on the subject of self-defense. They would never touch on the subject during your hearings. Am I correct?
That's right.
They tried to dissuade that from being entered into the court. Now, they openly admit in the court, now turning it against you, though, they have found a way to twist their words to now make it a crime because they felt to defend yourself. Which
they said, you put people at risk. Well, I dug the hole to save human life on both sides of the fence until we could work out a solution to what was going on. I did not intentionally destroy artifacts. And this is what the Paiute Nation has led everybody to believe. And it is completely insane. I dug into the history of the refuge, and they lost 1.5 million acres of land. And they are dependent upon the government. And I said the land should have been given back to the Indians from the very beginning of the occupation. I said that. And so when they are getting paid from the federal government to go to a hearing and cry on a stand that I dug up a phone cable that's been in the ground for what, 20 years? Mm-hmm. I mean, it obviously was not an archaeological site.
Yeah, they wouldn't put a parking lot there.
And everybody that works on the refuge that is a federal employee, not a federal officer. An officer has to be appointed by the president. The way the statute is written, it's an 1860 law saying that a federal officer is appointed by the president. And it came in during reclamation after the Civil War about the reclamation and repossessing the South, and the Union troops occupying, and the Union officers is where that law was written.
So, and then the other thing, is it honorable to the history of your ancestors to, testify against one individual falsely? I think there's an obvious answer here, but if you want to honor your ancestors, and yet there's a parking lot, and then you want to claim that I remember the victim of the Paiute tribe said, I hope today that there's justice for my ancestors. Justice that Duane Ehmer goes to prison instead of the federal government who has desecrated that land. I saw the refuge myself. I got to film you, and that was discussed in court today about that film, in the barn, the cleanup and everything too. It wasn't shown, but it was touched on by Michelle.
No, the federal government hid the fact that I was putting everything on my Facebook about the land being stolen from the Indians from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And this is what I was posting over early on my Facebook in early January.
And on the improvements that you were making to that barn and other locations at the refuge, how you respected it throughout. Of course, the federal government never presented those facts in court, ever.
No, they wouldn't let us tell the whole story or even part of it. They would not let my witnesses say anything more than a couple words. And this is the court case we had to fight. So basically, the judge on the bench trial made us automatically guilty of all the misdemeanor shit that the prosecution could possibly come up with.
What level? We went through some levels, and it ended at 12. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the enhancement, the terrorism enhancement that they attempted. The federal government tried to apply today, despite the fact that your charges are not applicable for that.
Right. They wanted pretty much a 5-year minimum, I believe, is what they were after. And thank God they didn't get the terrorism enhancement that would have rose my points by 6 or times 6.
Yeah. And it could have been there 5 years minimum,
right,
or more. And so, there's a silver lining in today that a good American will be falsely imprisoned, but only for a year, folks, for peacefully, not even really, you were, out of all of the people there, you were the least of a protester, in my opinion, because you were just simply symbolically riding your horse, feeding him hay, accepting donations of wood, and making enhancements to better a place that should have been treated by the federal government better themselves.
Absolutely.
And when we all got there, like once I even arrived, I saw that the place was in disarray, decaying, time, wear and tear, very, very long periods of time without money, without staff, without appropriate maintenance on the land, for a so-called wildlife reserve, right?
Yep.
And then here you guys come in and you're worried about the Hammonds. You want to bring more attention nationally for the Hammond's sake.
Absolutely.
You come in a little bit later, but you finally get the picture. You came in for different reasons.
I was there on January 2nd, and the first day I talked to the Hammond family, and that was my first presentation about what the Hammonds have gone through. And then 100 old men, old ranchers, begged us to stay so they would have a voice in their community, because the voice has been totally taken away. They've been,
and this is referencing Burns, Oregon, Harney County.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you have old men that beg you to stay, it breaks your damn heart, because ranchers don't beg nobody.
No. And their intent in begging you to stay wasn't nefarious. It was in hopes that your voices, which were notably maybe going to be seen, would do some good in bringing the truth out, exposing the corruption that they were enduring, the oppression that they've been enduring for many decades.
Yep.
Throughout that land. And it used to be, as we all know, in Grasity, Steve Grasity, former judge, there in Harney County, has said it over and over, and we can agree on this one point with him. It used to be the wealthiest county in the state
Absolutely.
of Oregon.
And it's also the largest county in the state.
Yes. Oh,
and
God, it's a hell to drive through.
There's more resources in Harney County than most of the states in the United States.
But where are those resources now? And what has happened to that town? I know what I saw.
These resources are in the hands of the federal government, dictating what can and will happen to the ground.
And the people there, what are they getting out of the land there?
The people in Burns, the well-paid fat cats in Burns that work for the federal government, they dictate policy. They push the locals around. They rotate in, they rotate out, and they demand changes to be made, and they systematically steal the land from all the ranchers.
So some of it seems at times, and I remember Ammon Bundy telling me this the very first night at the gate at midnight, when he was kind of going over a quick cap of the history of Harney County. Some of it, decades back, was obtained by the federal government, fair and square, by sale. Buyers and sellers.
They stole it from the Indians.
And then but they had stolen it from the Indians long before that. Right. Yeah. So in more recent history, since America and the federal government has completely confiscated America to, the federal government and away from the Native Americans, completely isolating them from their own land, in terroristic ways over, centuries of abuse and oppression and war and just complete murder. Now they're doing it to their own so-called, us generations later, the ranchers of the land of America, and people are truly not getting it.
They are systematically stealing the water from the ranchers. Now that shuts down the ranch's ability to survive.
Yeah. And the cattle and livestock.
And then the grazing, they limit the grazing to half of what it used to be. Mm-hmm. That way it would drive beef prices up.
With fees.
Yeah. And it's terrible how they're pushing the small Americans out of business to import probably beef companies from overseas.
Enhance the big cities.
Yeah.
Like Portland, Oregon.
Or we as Americans are not even able to find out where our meat comes from nowadays.
Right.
We used to just go down to the corner market and it came from the rancher down the street.
Yeah, you'd be able to know how your meat was handled.
Now all our meat's coming from New Zealand, Australia, Mexico.
Because we don't have enough of our own local, this is what's driving our prices, because we don't have enough of our own local farmers and ranchers to feed this population, because they've been pushed out. And these resources aren't just our livestock and land. There's what's in the land. There's water, there's uranium, there's minerals, many kinds of minerals that quite honestly are being brought up in different circles, controversial subjects that involve Russia and a lot of shadow government involvement, etc. And that, of course, isn't being touched on to expose. I mean, the government is doing everything. The reason why I think they're censoring you guys so much on what seems like every topic you can imagine is it helps them to avoid the deep-rooted truth. If we were to get near that, they allowed us to speak about some of the truths, it would lead us to speak about everything else we were starting to discover in Harney County.
Yeah, let's go to Uranium 1. And let's start at Uranium 1. That's big in the news right now. And
finally.
Yeah, after we uncovered this down in Burns in Harney County.
Hammond files still online. Pete Santilli released those 2 years ago. Yep.
Now, Pete Santilli has tried to get the truth out. Also, everybody else has tried to get the truth out. Now, I just got out of a federal court by a judge appointed by the same people behind Uranium One in a building dedicated by the owners of the Clinton Foundation.
And this is why we, the people, are suspicious of the real conspiracy being conspired by the federal government itself. Not we, the people. The federal government is the conspirators and the aggressors.
Now, as an American, as a proud American, they have taken our right to self-defense away in court. I'm going to defend myself regardless. My rights come from God, not the federal government. And I have to, when somebody says you don't need your rights and they want to sell you a license to do something that God has given you freely, you know, we need to stand. We need to make a point that these are rights given to us by God, not the federal government.
I'm ashamed that there's a lot of Americans that have spoken poorly about peaceful protesters, yet escalate and elevate positively the violent rioters that actually do destroy property and cause problems to the small business guy. And yet it's just a shameful state of affairs, our country right now. It's so mixed up. There's so many lies being told and perpetrated by the mainstream media, and I'm wondering, when I watch things like what happened to Duane today, where does our people in this country want to go? Are you wanting a king and queen again? Are you wanting to be ruled under tyranny again? Is that what you want? Because this is what it looks like, the oppression of a good man, a good American, a veteran who has served honorably in this country, which is also brought up and noted by Anna Brown today. You know, and he's fighting for his freedom. This isn't over. This is a good segue to talk about, are you going, I never asked you off camera, so I'll ask you on camera, are you going to appeal?
I'm going to appeal. Yes, we have more. There are 2,400 appeal issues in this case. 2,400. That's the largest appeal packet these lawyers have ever seen in 30 years. And it's damn sad. One appeal issue I have, the deprivation charge was given to me about 9 days before trial. They broke the 30-day minimum rule to give me the deprivation charge that I was convicted on. That's a very good appeal issue. Another appeal issue is my right to self-defense.
In sentencing, too.
Everybody has a right to self-defense.
Yeah, this court is absolutely in error to perpetrate what I believe the precedence was set down in Nevada courts with Judge Navarro against Eric Parker, citing, with the prosecution citing and Judge Navarro going along with, that they had no right to self-preservation or self-defense. I believe that's when the precedence was set, which set the stage for you, against you today, why they started, instead of avoiding the topic of self-defense like they were doing in your hearings during the trial, the hearings and the trial, they now embrace it, twisting it against you because precedence was set in Nevada.
They twist it against good Americans that have fought for this country. They are changing our history. They're teaching kids that, oh, you don't have the right to self-defense.
They want us to lay down like lambs.
You have to turn the other cheek. Well, I got news for you. When my brother hit me, I did not turn the other cheek. Okay? We have a right to defend ourselves.
Every human life on this planet has that right. It doesn't matter what country you're from. I don't care what the laws are. It is still your God-given right. Am I correct there?
That is
it doesn't
correct.
take a constitution to know that one. I don't care who's coming at me. I don't care if I'll be honest here. I don't know how you guys are going to think I'm crazy. Let's say I committed a crime just now. I don't know, I'm occupying the floor of this parking garage right now. And a cop or security officer wants me to move and I say no, and then they go to shoot me. I am going to shoot back if I have my gun or return. If they brandish their weapon before me, I'm going to return somehow to defend myself. I may be late on the uptake because they have the advantage at taking the step, the aggression, being aggressive. That's called the offense. Therefore, I'm on the defense. When you're on the defense, then you already are at a tactical disadvantage. Yep. Right? And that's where this man was, at a tactical disadvantage. There was nothing militarily combative about any of his thought processes, just survival, which is a God-given right. At that, I don't care what you've committed, your body is going to naturally react when you're being attacked aggressively by any other force, whether you're in the right or wrong. Whether you're in the right or wrong. But it seems they want to set a precedence in this country that we all behave like lambs, to overly comply to the point where when injustice is being served and your life is in mortal danger, that instead of having a natural reaction that maybe somewhere you're brainwashed from the way this nation is running, and you're so complicit that you lay down and take that without fighting back for your life. Therefore, anybody who is offensively aggressive against you, whether they're law enforcement or not, will have the upper hand the entire time, and you will die if you cannot defend yourself. This is not a precedence I want set. This is not a precedence that should be set anywhere on this planet. It is in many, many foreign nations. Already many generations, people are complicit and oppressed to that degree, where they lay down like lambs as their heads are removed, etc., etc. Is that the society that you want to live here in America? And if you're from another country and became an American citizen, you want our society to become like a society you ran from, so that you are again in the state of being a lamb or a sheep brought to the slaughter, where you cannot self-preserve at any cost, no matter what, just because they have a uniform on. So anybody can walk up to me in a uniform, and they may be a fake uniform, maybe a costume, but I better lay down and take it because they're wearing a uniform. I don't know. I mean, there's so many problems because of the injustice and corruption that's going on out there. It's very dangerous to trust all law enforcement anyway. But they're so aggressive in many cases. Like that night, you may not have died, but we lost someone that night.
That's right. They killed my friend Hellboy, and they shot him in the back with his hands up.
There.
And
not even defending himself because he was
had
really concerned about others.
And they shot him.
With his hands up.
They can make anybody, like they did me, look like the bad guy. Really easy. On day 2 of the occupation, they decided I was a terrorist, and they pushed this whole thing, and then I became the poster child of the Patriot movement in Burns, and with a long outstanding military career, I'm now labeled a terrorist.
I picked up on other key words today that even your defense attorney, Michelle, used. Citing the truth that you weren't ever a part of any militia. But I picked up on it, and even in defense, the precedence that I'm reading is militia is a bad thing, dangerous.
No, militia is a great thing, but I had no idea that it even existed.
Right.
Because I've been working like 100 hours a week for like 20 years. You know?
Many of us, yeah.
Since I got out of the Army.
Yeah,
so.
But there it is, and it's actually a great thing, yet in court, even with the defense, it's brought up every time more and more and more as a negative.
They want to demonize a militia because the militia will step in and say enough's enough.
Yeah, they are our last line of defense, especially since the media isn't our last line of defense anymore.
our media used to be
right.
The people that kept everybody honest, but the media is now played by people with large sums of money.
Oh, and for the people that don't know, what kind of weapon did you have that day?
I used a 1860 Capital revolver.
Not just that day.
The whole time I was on the refuge.
The whole time you're on, and that's it. And that is considered an
antique.
Interesting. And you had a horse and a flag.
Yep.
I remember those days when Pete and myself and others called for more supporters, peaceful protesters. Bring your flags, your flowers. If you want to bring your guns, fine, but bring your flags and your flowers too. I mean, shovel snow to help out the people in burns. I remember that.
And they tried to say we were a bunch of M16 carrying militia members. I don't think I met very many militia that came and stayed.
They don't want the people to have a right to defend themselves.
It was always construction workers, welders, electricians, you know, people that work with their hands, people that ranch, people that know, that have built this country.
Right.
Those are the people that came and stayed.
Yeah. There was a lighthearted moment in court today, and it was actually Judge Anna Brown made a funny. It just popped in my head, but it comes with something I'm proud of you of, 20 years of sobriety. And it was hilarious, though, because she commended you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then
incredible long time to stay sober.
It wasn't, the funny wasn't made by Judge Anna Brown. I'm sorry, I apologize. It was actually made by Michelle, your attorney, who said you might have been one of the very few that remained sober at the refuge.
To an FBI standoff.
Yeah, that was real tactical and military-like with all those people that had a little extra fun sometimes. And there was some people, not everyone. Yeah. I did witness, not 24/7 did I witness it, so I'm not going to exaggerate and say that there was nothing, you know, that it was at a loose environment, because I would say the Bundys and others maintain good stewardship.
We didn't smoke in the buildings. We didn't drink. The Bundys have the highest of morals than anybody I've ever met.
Right.
And
so they definitely had a good standard there. I know that. Yeah. Good stewardship.
And I didn't want to be around all the drinking anyway. So.
Right. So yeah, you were avoiding that, and you were commended for that today. And it was kind of funny the way that was brought up, because there were some people there that behaved a little loosely. Not all, and I'm not naming names because I wasn't. It wasn't a visual. It's just rumor.
So
it's just rumor.
It's kind of funny. The guy that dug a hole, convicted of a year in prison. The guy that shot at the drone gets probation. Oh, shot at a manned airplane, which got probation. It's pretty sharp contrast, because he was willing to take a plea deal, and I was never offered one.
That was brought up. And that was found to be irrelevant.
I love Sean and Sandy with all my heart. I just wanted to show you the hypocrisy of this court case, where they say, oh, and he gets to keep all his weapons, which is wonderful. I think everybody should keep all their weapons.
Yeah, you're not saying they should have had something happen to them. You're saying in comparison it would have been consistent and right and just for you to have dug a hole and not shoot a drone or shoot at a drone, for you to have no more prison time than you've already served.
Right. And Jake is the nicest young kid I've ever met in my life.
He is. He's so sweet.
He's an actor, for God's sake. He's never done anything wrong. He's never broke the fucking law. Never. Ever.
You said the F word.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I say it all the time. I get scolded.
I'm just left dumbfounded how they could say digging a hole 30 miles from town can land a man in prison. You know, it's just, I'm at a loss for words. But, you know, we knew it was coming.
Yeah, you see that hero.
We knew it was coming.
You are a hero.
So
you're one of them. Yeah. To us, you are. I know how you feel.
Yeah,
But we think highly of you.
I'm mentally exhausted at this point.
And with that, I shouldn't keep the two of you anymore.
We'll give you a ride to your car.
Yeah, they're gonna take me to my car. So while you do that, you don't have to have the light on. I'm sure my audience doesn't need artistic visuals, so that she's safely driving. How about we allow them to ask you any questions?
Okay.
And let's see what time it is. I promised.
Honey,
okay, good. I have 20 minutes.
Do you want to drive, or do you want me to drive?
It's 4th and Yamil. So he's going to drive, and then if you have questions, I'm going to... I look terrible in this light, by the way. I'm just saying. So if you have questions, shoot them at me now, and while he's driving, I will ask him for you. And that's how we're going to wrap this up, folks, because they need to go home. I need to go home. I'm still 3 hours from home. I'm 15 minutes closer to Portland now where I live, by the way. And I'll do a separate video to update you guys on my personal stuff. That I just has no bearing on this right now, though.
Okay.
It's going well in my life, though.
All right.
Oh, shush, Tara.
Here we go.
Here we go. I'm looking for questions. Plans for now. Are you going to keep up the fight? Stephen Hedin. Okay, so he is going to file an appeal. So yes.
And I'm going to... Oh, let's talk about how I'm going to get to the prison, shall we?
Let's do that, because we have a plan. Well, he has a plan, and I'm going to film him.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead, Duane. You tell us all about it.
I plan to ride my horse across the state and report to the federal prison on horseback.
There you go. See, we're always so transparent. We always tell them what we're going to do so the feds could follow us and harass us.
I better dress warm because there's something about riding my horse in January that I must be in love with.
Oh, I know, because you keep doing that, huh?
I keep doing it.
It will be 2 years, by the way, in January.
Yeah. 2 years after the refuge, I'm going to go to prison.
January 24th, you're going to voluntarily turn yourself and Hellboy back in.
That's right.
Again.
I wonder what they're going to do with Hellboy.
Well, I think it'll be up to us to take him home and keep him safe at that point. So as a community, I think we're going to need to pull together to make this logistically safe for Hellboy.
Maybe we should take some panels and see if I could bring him with me. Because he's a convicted terrorist too.
I mean, they did detain him at least, didn't they? Without a warrant.
They did.
They did. They took Hellboy away without a warrant.
And he is my best friend.
He is his best friend.
So,
what else do we have? Am I missing any questions? Sorry. What's your favorite line of work?
Being a cowboy. I love taking care of cows.
Okay. I got those ones.
Uh-oh. You know what we have to do?
Lisa wants to thank you for standing and coming to Burns. It woke me up. What do we have to do? We have to pay?
We have to go pay.
Yeah.
One of us does.
Play with your card.
All right.
We need to make sure Becky and his mom and Hellboy keep the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to need to help them
I owe $14,000 on my house, and once it's paid off...
and how much does the government want in restitution from you?
Like $140 or $10,000 for restitution, but like $140,000 in other stuff.
So $150,000 altogether.
I think so.
$140,000 in miscellaneous for like the other charges, and then $10,000 in the restitution separately.
Right.
That's a lot, and this is going to happen to probably each one of the men here in Oregon during their sentencing to some degree or the other.
Yes.
It's always inconsistent, so I can't even predict what's going to happen.
Well, they had to make an example out of me because I've been saying everybody needs to defend themselves. Everybody needs to stand. Everybody needs to lift their brother up and protect him.
And Doris has a good question. Can you get out sooner for good behavior? Yes.
Yeah, but not much sooner.
Not much. About 80 percentile. There's a formula with an 80 percentile. So 12 months, he might get out in 10 months prior.
Maybe.
Give or take. It depends on the percentage and the levels they keep him at. Depends if they make trouble for him purposefully to set him up, too.
Yes.
There is that concern, guys. And then there's people that they'll put in prison to start trouble with him. That could happen. I mean, we can't prove it, but it happens. We're aware of these things that happen in these prison systems, and yet as Americans we do nothing, and we care nothing about. And we have so many more innocent people now in prison. We should be caring. This is your prisoner. What it looks like.
This is the funny thing. They want me to pay all this money in restitution, and yet they lock me up. And so I'm going to be a year behind on my bills when I get out. And then I have $10,000 restitution on top of just trying to live. It's asinine. The whole thing's asinine.
Noreen, hi sweetheart. She says, will the not guilty verdict in Vegas change anything on your case? Nope. They have nothing to do with the other here. They bring them up on occasion in court at their convenience, but honestly it has nothing to do. Yeah.
It was nice to see Mrs. Parker here today. Oh my God.
Yes, Andrea was here today.
And seeing her really brightened my day and gave me hope.
Stephen asked, can you stay in contact with the others?
I'm going to regardless.
There's ways that they communicate here and there. Can you set up a place where we can send money when you are gone to your family, where the government won't take it?
I have a PayPal.
We're going to have that figured out. Cindy's going to help us out.
I don't know.
Can you get an appeal before you have to report and be able to know? Sandy, that's a great question, but it takes on average 3 to 4 years, although it was wonderful to see Joe Robertson get his appeal a year after serving prison time, which was unusual and fast. But I don't, and now he's out.
Chances on my appeal will come out way after I spend all my time.
Have you told my cousin Scott Eccles about your riding Hellboy to prison? Oh, we just discussed that.
That was our new idea.
How long does he have to pay all the fines? I think we have. Do you have the payment system? Is not set up yet, is it?
It's kind of funny. I got to have my income before I do anything, and I won't have my income until after I get out of prison. So, there we go.
Yes, probation time. Good question. 3 years after he served. Yeah.
3 years probation afterwards, yeah.
Unless
I'm pardoned by the President of the United States. That's the only thing at this point that could save me from all this bullshit.
Looks like I answered those questions. All right, guys. I'm going to let you go, Duane. I think that's enough questions for now. Please understand he's tired.
I love you guys. Hang in there. We're going to get through this.
Okay. Good night, everybody, for now. I'll be on the Pete Santilli show here soon. When I get a number to call in and a link, I'll share that with you guys. I don't know if I'll share it with you before or after the show. But, you know, look up Pete Santilli. And let's keep that lifted. Oh, there we go.
Hi, Pete. I love you.
There you go. He is going to play some clips on his show tonight from this video. They're very well aware of it, so they're going to lift this video, play some clips, ask me some questions. So I will stay in the Portland area until I'm done conducting that interview with Pete Santilli. It'll be good. I'll be on the air again with Pete Santilli.
Good.
It's been almost 2 years for me.
2 years.
Because he has been incarcerated this entire time unjustly. A journalist.
There we go.
Who's next, huh?
We're hopeful. It's going to be a long fight. This is just the very beginning.
All right. Then that's where I'm going to end it. Good night, guys.